Hey everyone, welcome to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's Friday, June 10th. We have 15 games. After last night's slate, all I can think about and all I can do is get excited to see guys like Chris Sale, Clayton Kershaw, just some of these top arms on the hill tonight. It makes me so excited. And even as a tournament player, I'm excited about just having safe type of pitchers after the last 2 days. So got my main man, my cash guy, Hoop 2410. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Like you said, Thursday night just a disaster for starting pitching. To see some of these names on the mound, it's a very sign of relief. It should be a good slate. There's no doubt about it. Before we hop in, it's Friday. There's an NBA game, and I am excited because that gives me the opportunity to acquire some more of those big T bucks. I heard he gave me a little shout out this morning, so I'm coming back at him. You know where to find me, Big T. Let's do this again. It's been fun.
All right, so if it gets to game 7, we have to do something with both you guys on the podcast and just like a fun bet, right?
Absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, it's probably only going to last 2 more games. So maybe why don't we do it for like game 5 or something when the series will be over? It'll be the last game. It'll be the finale. Me and Big T can come on here. We can have some fun.
No, we're gonna do something. I gotta let the juices work here, but I want to talk about our sponsor site, FantasyDraft.com. Hoop, you were on with me. It was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and you had just got your fantasy draft hat in, and you absolutely loved it. And kind of been teasing that we were going to do something with the fantasy draft team, and so this is what we're going to do here. Their $15,000 home run tonight. $25 buy-in, only 681 people in this tournament. It's a tournament where only 15 entry max. So what's going to happen is in the comments section of the podcast today, if you're planning on playing in this tournament, put your username in the podcast comments, and the highest finishing user is going to get a fantasy draft hat via the Morning Grind podcast.
Yeah, you don't want to miss out on that. It is the best piece of apparel in the industry, second to none.
Yeah, it's just like, we talked about it, and I've been wanting to do something for a hat here, and I feel like this is the best way to do it. It gets you guys playing on Fantasy Draft, which we want. Use promo code GRINDERS. Come over and play in this home run. I got some tickets. I'm going to be playing in this thing, so don't let me win. I'll gladly take another hat.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
All right, I might rule myself out, but check this out. Make sure you guys leave the comment here on the podcast comments, and I'll go through, and whoever finishes the highest, put your fantasy draft username in the comments, and whoever finishes the highest, I'm going to, get a hold of you, and we're going to get you guys a hat. But let's talk some baseball, man. There's a lot to talk about here, and one of the juiciest games of the night here is the first game that we're going to start off with, and it's Detroit at New York. We got CC Sabathia and Mike Pelfrey. 2 gas cans. I'm not believing in the CC Sabathia reassurance like coming up and just dominating this year.
No, I'm not buying it one bit, and this is just about as bad as it gets in terms of matchups for him against the Tigers here in Yankee Stadium. You have to love the bats here on both sides. I'm not buying CC Sabathia's success, and Mike Pelfrey sucks. So, both offenses clearly in elite spots here.
Yeah, CC's hard contact is way down. That's a little concerning. But his xFIP and SIERA are almost 2 points higher than his ERA. So regression's happening for CC soon. Like you mentioned, this is a great spot for that regression to happen here against a Detroit right-handed heavy team. And you summed it up pretty well for Pelfrey, but I want to get into it a little bit more here. 372 WOBA, massive BABIP. Really a nice hard contact rate to lefties. Just this is a great spot to load up on the Yankees yet again here.
Yeah, this could be a lot of trouble for Pelfrey. The ballpark obviously very favorable for hitters, and they have a very left-handed heavy lineup. So guys like Gardner, McCann, Beltran, Ellsbury, A-Rod if he's in there. I know he's right-handed, but cash game playable, team stack, whatever you want to do here, all in play.
It might be a little chalky, but I honestly don't care. I think the game stack in tournaments here is a really nice thing to look at, especially on fantasy draft and FanDuel here.
Yeah, I mean, with the Coors Field factory, we have a game in Colorado, Coors Field, so that will always lower the ownership on other stacks, other team stacks, other game stacks. So you don't have to be overly concerned with the ownership levels, I think, tonight, because there's, on top of Coors, there's other really elite spots too. So if you like this one, load up. Favorite one-off tournament play maybe on the slate is going to be Justin Upton, batting 6th or 7th in this Tigers lineup. He's been complete shit all season long. He's been really, really bad. Starting to hit the ball pretty hard. I watched a lot of Tigers games, has had a couple big games as well recently. So I love him as a one-off tournament play. Should be super low owned. So he's a really solid option in GPPs.
Yeah, he's really cheap over on draft, as far, as well as FanDuel. Love the Detroit stack, love the Yankee stack. We don't need to really get into it a lot. If you're stacking Detroit, look at Kinsler, JD Martinez, Miguel Cabrera. You mentioned Justin Upton. I want to throw out James McCann against the lefty, because if I didn't, I would get some Twitter hate. But everybody knows that I like James McCann against lefties at this point.
Yeah.
And you can look at Brian McCann against Mike Pelfrey here. Both catchers are very playable in this game, and just all the left-handed bats are definitely in play. And I did it the last 2 nights now, and I've wrapped around with the Yankee stack, taking Parmley at minimum salary and going with the 3 outfielders, and it's been, profitable back-to-back nights.
Yeah, it definitely works, and that's kind of a way to differentiate yourself from the other Yankee stacks. People are just going to go 1 through 4, 2 through 5, something like that. You start at the bottom and go to the top of the lineup, and you make yourself a little bit different.
St. Louis at Pittsburgh, Garrett Cole, Micah Wacha. Garrett Cole, the swinging strike rate, the strikeout rate, very concerning. Hasn't had more than 5 strikeouts in 4 straight games, including a game with 0 strikeouts. It's a great ballpark, but is this a spot that you want to target, Cole?
No, not necessarily. Honestly, this game as a whole, it's just like a stay away game. I don't know. I rarely play Garrett Cole. Waka's been bad, but both these guys are good enough where they could go out and have a strong outing. It's a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. I think there's better pitching options. There's way better hitting options. I don't see either of these teams going out and scoring 7 or 8 runs. And I don't necessarily see either team getting shut down either. So for me, this is kind of a, no thank you on a 15-game slate type of game.
Yeah, I honestly like that call. If you want to play a one-off guy, I like Polanco here against Wacha. He's the one guy that I would look at. Wacha, he hasn't been anything too special. And honestly, man, I want to stack against Garrett Cole. I really do. And in a tournament on this slate, I might do it just because I think that it'd be less than 3% owned.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But outside of that, I'm not going to really play any one-off guys here. If Carpenter was cheaper, he's just so expensive. Peralta, they finally got him up where you actually have to make a decision on him at 2,800. I like your call here, just kind of staying away unless, I go crazy and stack the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a super, super low-owned stack, but, I mean, honestly, the probability of either team really going off here is super low. So, I mean, while the ownership level is low, I just don't think the opportunity for these teams to have a big outing offensively is really there.
Moving out, Philadelphia at Washington, Steven Strasburg, Jeremy Hellickson. Strasburg had that calf strain coming out of that last game. He still had 10 strikeouts at Cincinnati, great American ballpark. The strikeout rate for him has just been insane this season. Double-digit strikeouts in 4 of the last 6. When we're looking at this slate, man, it's really Strasburg or Kershaw. What's your thoughts on Strasburg here?
Yeah, I mean, the matchup's phenomenal for him. Obviously, here at home against Philadelphia, he's a massive favorite at minus 245. You have Kershaw on the road, San Francisco, very pitcher-friendly ballpark, but he's on the road. He's only about minus 150, facing off with another good pitcher in Johnny Cueto. So, typically a Kershaw guy, there's no doubt about it, but I think you can almost make the argument for Strasburg here. I think it's close, especially on a site like FanDuel where the win's so important. You're looking at Strasburg's about 100 points more of a favorite than Kershaw is. So I think that makes the argument a little bit closer than it normally is.
Yeah, just to really just sum it up, Strasburg's facing Philadelphia at Washington, and Kershaw's facing the Giants at San Francisco. So, if you want to play on FanDuel one pitcher site, Strasburg might be a little bit safer here.
Yeah.
Are you concerned about the calf strain? I know Dusty Baker wasn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not really concerned. Like you said, he struck out the 10 guys. He's looked super sharp this season. Gets a dream matchup here at home against Philadelphia. So as long as we don't get any information that this is a more serious injury, I'm fine firing away with Strasburg here.
Jeremy Hellickson, he's been hit or miss this season. That pretty much sums him up when you look at his numbers and everything like that. But the thing that's really interesting to me about Hellickson this season is his swinging strike rate is 12.6%, which is right in line with what we've seen in his rookie season in 2010 with the Rays. And that was by far his best season.
Yeah.
This might be a guy that we use in spots. I just don't know if we're going to use him here against Washington.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy you can really get on both sides of in certain situations. He's a guy that will target, if he's facing the Padres or something like that. I'd take a shot on him. But on the road, Washington, it's a pretty bad spot. Harper, Daniel Murphy, two of the best hitters in baseball against right-handed pitching. So I think this is a spot where we're going to side with the hitters. And, I have no issue getting on board here with the Nationals as a stack or getting some cheap pieces. Revere, pretty cheap around the industry, should bat leadoff. He had the day off last night, tonight, depending on when you listen to this. Harper, like I said, Daniel Murphy, two really solid hitters. So I like the Nationals bats here. They're getting shut out right now, or they may have just scored one run. So if they have a bad outing tonight, I know they're probably pretty popular in tournaments, hop back on board here because this matchup is really good, and the bad performance tonight might go ahead and lower their ownership percentage a little bit.
So I get the home run notifications from Twitter, that home run feed that RotoGrinders has. If you had to guess, who hit the home run for Washington?
Yeah, I just saw. I'm not going to pretend like I didn't.
Yeah, man,
he's
how
so
hot
good,
is
man.
this guy?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers indicate he's like the best hitter in baseball, right? Like the deep hitting numbers. Like he's might be one of the best hitters in baseball. It's crazy.
Just insane the type of season that Daniel Murphy's having. Even this season, when Hellickson has pitched better than what he has over the last couple of years, he's still struggling with lefties. He has a massive xFIP dating back to last year, 348 WOBA, 33.7% hard contact rate to lefties. Fire up Murphy and Harper again in this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not going to take anybody against Strasburg. I like being different, but I just don't know if this is the spot.
There's a difference between being different and dumb, and that would just be dumb.
Baltimore at Toronto, Marco Estrada, Kevin Gossman. What's your thoughts here on this game?
Bats, more bats. I mean, Estrada's been solid this season, but in the Rogers Center against the Orioles, with the other pitching options that we have, I don't think I can get on board with either of these guys. So it's bats, and you know the guys who to target when you consider the Orioles and the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is Estrada's a massive fly ball pitcher, and you got a team that hits a lot of home runs in Baltimore. Now, Estrada's strikeout rate is decent at 20.2% against right-handed bats, but man, I feel like this is the time to load up on Trumbo, Machado, Chris Davis, just your normal suspects here for Baltimore. And I talk about it every day, and people obviously don't listen to me. Mark Trumbo, under 5% owned every sleep.
That's what I said. I mean, I've been saying it for weeks, and I'm a cash guy. So if the cash guy knows that information, like that's not good for you GPP people. He's probably the best one-off tournament play night in and night out. I've been saying it for probably a month now.
Yeah.
If the cash guy knows it, you GPP guys, there's no freaking excuse. So get on this guy in tournaments as a one-off. And also this team is great to stack up too. There's just so much upside. I mean, the main components of this offense all have multiple home run upside. So this is a team that you should be targeting for the most part on a nightly basis. They have a great matchup tonight, full 15-game slate with Coors Field, some other elite hitting environments. They're going to be low owned.
Gossman, when he struggles, it's to righties. 2.17 home run per 9 over his last 83 innings to righties. So that's dating back to last year. he struggles a lot with the home run to righties. He's going to face a lot of right-handed bats here and a lot of power. Josh Donaldson looks like he's starting to finally get over that slump. And if you don't believe in cold streaks, they're real. And it looks like Donaldson's finally out of his. I think he's an excellent play here.
Yeah, absolutely. So you got a pitcher that struggles against right-handed power bats is what you're telling me. Well, this is about the last team in baseball that you really want to face at Toronto Blue Jays. Leading off, with Bautista, Donaldson, and Encarnacion. It is not going to be easy for this guy. For the most part, if you're not playing on a site where they adjust based on matchup, these guys are all relatively cheap for the most part. So Blue Jays should be relatively popular tonight, but the matchup's phenomenal. The hitting environment here is phenomenal, so you have to love them.
My first of 3 plays here, every day I give out 3 guys that I like under 8K for fantasy draft for cash games. My first one actually comes from this game. It's Kim. He's 5,200. If you want to fit in these top price tag, pitchers, Kim batting at 2 spot at 5,200. That's just too cheap.
Yeah, it's like free value right there. So take advantage of that.
Just wanted to point that out before we move on to Houston at Tampa. Tampa couldn't play in Tampa last week. I was in Tampa all weekend last week, and of course they had to be in Minnesota. But now they're at home. Lance McCullers, Matt and Dracy, nothing to really get excited about here, but I feel like McCullers is a really interesting tournament play.
Yeah, I love McCullers in tournaments actually quite a bit. Typically pitching in Houston, this is a very positive park shift heading to Tampa Bay, one of the more pitcher-friendly ballparks in baseball. This guy's showing some strikeout upside throughout his career, and he'll face a lot of righties for the most part in the Rays lineup. So I like him a lot in tournaments. The main problem is you have Chris Sale going, you have Strasburg going, you have Clayton Kershaw going. So what type of upside are you going to need out of your pitcher? Probably a lot. So on multiple pitcher sites, definitely got to consider, I guess, on single pitcher sites, but I have a hard time imagining this guy gets close enough to Kershaw, Strasburg, and Chris Sale. So temper your expectations on single pitcher sites. On multiple pitcher sites, like them a lot.
This is where the tournament player comes in me, Hoop, and your cash thinking is always excellent here. I disagree with you, man. I think he has more upside than guys like Sale, not more upside than Kershaw or Strasburg here. But if we factor in point per dollar, this guy can easily get 50-plus fantasy points in this matchup. He's a guy that doesn't give up home runs. He has a massive swinging strike rate, and he has a 59% ground ball rate this season. It's an excellent matchup for him against a Rays team who, when we're looking at the Rays and you look at, this team, they're right-handed heavy, like you said, and they're striking out 25% of the time against right-handed bats or pitchers.
Point per dollar, yes, he has the same upside. Raw fantasy point, no, he does. No. He's not going to get you to 70. Those other guys can get 70 fantasy points on a site like FanDuel. So point per dollar, yes. Raw fantasy point total, no. So if you're going to play him, you have to make sure you're maximizing your bats with elite high upside bats, multiple home run upside guys like Trumbo we talked about, and Bautista, just guys that can hit multiple home runs. So agree to disagree, I guess, is what you can say there.
No, I think we're on the same page. I'm not saying like he's the best, point player. I'm saying point per dollar. If you're wanting exposure to Coors or this Yankee game, I feel like this is a guy you're going to want to, have as your pitcher here. Now, Carlos Correa, he's banged up. It'd be interesting to see if he's in the lineup. Ankle sprains are no joke, and I don't expect him to be in here. And that lineup takes a little bit of a hit, but that lineup still is really solid.
Yeah, and it's a situation where I'm not going to play Andres, just a low strikeout guy. You look at the numbers. He has 4 wins. He's 4-0 and 2.52 ERA. Just not a high strikeout guy. It's a bad matchup here with the Astros. So off him, off the Astros as well. They're expensive, and they're getting a massive park shift not in their favor. So avoid for me.
Yeah, I was the same way, and then I started to look into him a little bit more, and he has it's massive, dude. It's 37.2% hard contact rate to righties. Like, I like Evan Gaddis here as a one-off tremendously, and you could probably sell me on George Springer as well.
Yeah, and they should be low owned. I guess that's the one thing. It's low owned guys with decent upside. From a cash game perspective, absolutely not. From a GPP perspective, I can see the play.
All right, let's move on here. Oakland at Cincinnati. I love this baseball game. I got so excited when I saw Sonny Gray going into Cincinnati against the Reds, and Anthony DeSclafani coming off the DL here, making his first start of the season. We haven't seen anything about pitch count, but you almost have to expect this guy's going to be on a pitch count here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the problem is, though, the Athletics lineup is just it's dog shit right now. It's just not very good. Yeah. Josh Reddick out of that lineup just takes a huge hit, and if they're not facing a lefty, you kind of minimize the upside of guys like Valencia and Chris Davis. So maybe a lineup filler, cheapy, potentially, if Lowry gets to the top, or you're playing on a site where Coco Crisp is cheap, or Billy Burns bats second and he's cheap. But overall, the lineup's weak, and it's not too much to get excited about. I'd love to pick on DeSclafani here, but I just don't see a viable route to it.
Valencia was dealing with a sickness. I would almost, it's been like 3 days now. I expect him to be back in the lineup. But like you said, without Josh Reddick in this lineup is just awful. And one player does make a huge difference here. And if Chris Davis is back in there and Valencia, then, we might have a little bit of upside to target against DeSclafani. But without those two guys, your biggest bat is Stephen Vogt, and he's been pretty bad this season. So I will say one thing, though. I love the red stack here against Sonny Gray. If you had to guess, what would you expect the ownership to be on the Reds here?
It's going to be a lot lower than it should. Sonny Gray is not very good. He gets a very negative park shift. He's fallen off a lot this season. Last year, pretty steady guy. I mean, he was a safe bet last season to go 6 or 7 innings, get you, 5 or 6 strikeouts. Not the case this season. He holds solid name recognition, which will lower the ownership percentage as well. He gets the negative park shift here. So I'm going to say going to be under 10, and it should not be under 10 by any stretch of the imagination. So I think you're going to see a lot of sharp GPP guys, such as yourself, on the Reds, where most of the field will be off them.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for the compliment. We talked about Trumbo, and this is another guy. We've been doing the podcast since the start of baseball season, and every day Adam Duvall is under owned, just like Trumbo, and this guy is another guy with massive upside.
Yeah,
Sonny Gray,
it's the same thing though. It's a name recognition thing. So Adam Duvall, most people are like, who the hell is that? If you're not at this every day, if you're not digging into the numbers, if you're not following baseball every day, he's a guy you wouldn't know. I mean, no one knows who the hell Adam Duvall is unless you're like us and you're doing this stuff every day and you're at the numbers and you're looking at the stats. The name recognition just is not there with this guy. Next season, it might be there. This season, it's not. Take advantage of it. This guy's good.
Yeah, you summed it up. This guy's good. Don't not play this guy. He has a 369 ISO against right-handed pitching this season. It's a small ballpark. We talk about it all the time. There's not a reason that we were not just saying American small park. This is a small ballpark. It's a very hitter-friendly ballpark. Adam Duvall has massive upside here, and just one of my favorite tournament plays. I like Votto and Bruce as well. You couldn't pay me to take Brandon Phillips, so for the most part, I'm going to stick to Bruce, Votto, and Duvall. I don't think you need to do that 4-man stack with this team.
No, I mean, just get the guys with the upside, honestly. And there's a big difference in that lineup, upside, no upside. And those 3 that you mentioned have the upside. The other guys that hit towards the top, not as much upside.
Yep, definitely agree. Chicago at Atlanta. This is a great game here, for Cubs bats. We have Jason Hamill and Bud Norris. Bud Norris moving back into the starting rotation after getting hit so hard this season. They had to move him back to the bullpen, but it's worked his way back into the starting rotation here, and you almost have to think the Cubs are a top 3 stack on the slate.
Yeah, and they'll be low owned because moderate, middle of the road type hitting environment here. The guys are prices are still up. They're coming down a little bit. You have Coors Field, you have Chase Field, you have the Yankees game, the Tigers, Yankees high total there. Some other good hitting environments, Arizona. Yeah, I did mention that, but I think this one goes lower owned than the rest. And Cubs in a phenomenal spot here against Bud Norris, who's not good, really bad pitcher. Want to pick on him if you can. So I think of the elite stacks, I think the Cubs goes the lowest and have just as much upside as anyone else.
McCullers with a Cubs stack. I would not be shocked if it wins a tournament.
Yeah, and get some Reds in there too. I think you're making all the money.
Bud Norris, you mentioned like just how bad this guy is. Like he has the highest WOBA to lefties on the slate out of all the pitchers, and the second highest WOBA to righties on the slate. All these guys are in play. Every single person from Rizzo to whoever's hitting eighth is in play for the Cubs tonight. Jason Hamill, when we're thinking safe on a two-pitcher site, he's pretty safe here in this matchup against the Braves.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think he'll end up being the most popular SP2 on the slate. You know, if you're playing on DraftKings or Fantasy Draft, I think you're going to see a lot of people pairing up one of the top guys with Hamels, and then, you know, whatever hitters you can kind of work into your lineup.
Freddie Freeman's hitting the ball really hard again. Just something that you notice if you're watching games or if you're digging really advanced into the, you know, StatCast stuff. He's an interesting one-off. He's the only guy that I would play from the Braves here on this game.
Yeah, there's just not much upside in that Braves lineup.
Kansas City at Chicago taking on the White Sox. Ian Kennedy against Chris Sale. Chris Sale, definitely a guy that we want to target here on this slate. I think he's definitely more of a tournament option than a cash game play. I don't like the new Chris Sale, I'll be honest with you.
Just, you know, not as many strikeouts is kind of what you're saying here. Pitching a little more to contact, working really deep into games. You know, I would not be surprised, like one bit. You know, I'm not afraid to pick on the Royals as I was last year. Last year, a different Royals team, they didn't strike out. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out and pitches at least 8 innings, 5 strikeouts, picks up the win. Is that enough on this slate? I don't know if you're paying that type of price, because I think Strasburg has more upside. I think Clayton Kershaw has more upside. So out of the 3, I think he's my least favorite. Does that make him a good tournament option? Yeah, I think so, because he can still get those strikeouts if he wants to. He's pitching a different type of game. So tournaments, yeah. Cash games, I don't think I will be going this route.
Yeah, I think McCullers is a better play than Sale, and I'm the tournament guy. So
yeah.
I don't like Sale here. And it has nothing to do with the Royals lineup. Like it has, you know, like you said, this is not the same Royals team. And, you know, we seen it the last time he faced the Royals, you know, week and a half, you know, 7 innings, 7 hits, 7 strikeouts, didn't pick up the win, but 36 fantasy points. So if you add the win, 7 hits, 7, I don't know how many runs he gave up, but so say he gets 50 fantasy points. That's not enough here at 11K.
Yeah, that's a legit point.
Ian Kennedy, I have no interest in him. I do like some of the bats here against him. Yeah, like any of these White Sox backs?
Yeah, I want the upside guys. Abreu, Todd Frazier, Eaton, if he was a little bit cheaper, just a little bit too expensive for me around the industry. So it's the upside guys. It's Abreu, it's Frazier, and, you know, not too much. I mean, I'm nothing to get super excited about, I guess, here.
Yeah, Abreu on Fantasy Draft is really cheap at 7,200. So Frazier at 7,600 and Eaton at 75. They might be a little interesting 3-man stack over on Draft just because of the price tags.
Yeah.
Moving out, New York. Did you want any of the Kansas City bats? I know we're kind of mediocre, but I don't want any bats.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not going to be many times we're going to recognize or recommend hitters against Chris Sale. So definitely pass on the Royals here.
Mets at Milwaukee. This game was supposed to be low scoring, but it's going the opposite way of a lot of people were thinking Jimmy Nelson were going to pitch well against the Mets. Mets actually hit Jimmy Nelson pretty good, and I know the scoreboard's not going to show it, but he's gotten out of a couple jams here. Matt Harvey, Junior Guerrera, you know, taking on each other here. I have no interest in either one of these pitchers.
No, I mean, with Matt Harvey, we've seen a little drop off this season. In certain spots, we're going to say yes. In most spots, we're going to say no. This is a spot where I think we can both agree and say no. I mean, Brewers are a team. They're getting healthier. They kind of have, their everyday lineup that they're rolling out night in and night out. I don't like picking on them much anymore, to be honest with you, especially when they're at home. So I'm off Harvey. I'm definitely off Guerrero. No thanks.
How many tournament teams would you have to build to consider playing Harvey against a strikeout happy Brewers team?
On this full slate, I mean, probably at least 10 or 15.
Yeah, I was thinking like 25.
Yeah, maybe more. You typically build that many lineups, so you'd have the better answer there.
I usually play about 10, but
yeah,
I just can't get behind Harvey right now.
No.
I need to see like a month straight of Harvey just dominating before I, would even think about rostering him. I like some of the Mets bats here. Conforto, Cespedes. I don't want Granderson. I know he had a home run, in last night's game, but he's just been too inconsistent.
Yeah, Conforto's probably my favorite play. I mean, it's a watered-down lineup right now for the Mets, so it's kind of hard to get super excited. But, yeah, Conforto, I get on board with Granderson if he's priced reasonably. Cespedes, Neil Walker is the other guy I wanted to mention. Neil Walker, I think it might be my favorite, him and Conforto.
Terry Collins has been mentioning and talking a lot about trying to get Diaza in the lineup more. It's only 2,200 on FanDuel. If he gets a decent lineup spot and he's in the lineup, he's a nice little punt play here in this matchup.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, be close to the minimum basically everywhere that you're playing.
Now looking at the other side of this game, we have to look at guys like Chris Carter, right? Just massive upside here. I know Harvey, not typically somebody we pick on, but Chris Carter, I feel like we can play him just about any night right now.
Yeah, Chris Carter's having a great season. Villar, I think, is an absolute stud. I think he's a guy that will be targeting a lot in DFS for the years to come. I like some of these Brewers bats. I'm not opposed to picking on Harvey, but I think you nailed the top option there.
Moving out, Boston at Minnesota, Stephen Wright, Tyler Duffy. If you had to put an ownership on Stephen Wright here, what would it be?
Close to zero. I don't know. It won't be super high. He's a guy that people typically don't play, I'd assume. I mean, on this slate, no doubt about it, in the single digits, probably under 5.
Okay, that's definitely kind of what I was thinking too, and I feel like for that reason, I think that he's an interesting tournament play. More on Fantasy Draft, DraftKings, 2-pitcher sites. FanDuel, I think I would still side with McCullers in that price range over Wright, but I feel like this is an excellent matchup here for Wright. Mm-hmm. On the road at Minnesota, so he's outside of Fenway. The knuckleball's just been nasty, and the Red Sox are going to give him a ton of run support here against Tyler Duffy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good matchup for him. I mean, he'll get to face a good amount of right-handed bats. Not that it really matters with a knuckleballer, but they will strike out too. These Twins bats. So I like the call in tournaments. I mean, people are going to see that total of 9. Will open up at 9.5, and just go ahead and avoid the pitchers no matter what. But I think Wright has an interesting matchup here with the Twins.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's definitely, just something we can look at here. Let's talk bats in this game. Is there any Twins that you want here against the Red Sox?
Not any Twins bats. I don't really think I'm going to be looking to pick on Stephen Wright too much, so I'm off the Twins. There's no one that really stands out to me. I mean, Trevor Plouffe was pretty cheap in a few spots. I mean, maybe him, but full slate, I'm not too excited about these guys.
Red Sox, have to like some of these Red Sox bats here. I know who my favorite is. Who do you like here?
Well, yeah, Big Papi. There's no doubt about that. But they're all in play. And, the problem is they're pretty expensive. And you're playing on a slate with Coors Field. You're playing on a slate with Clayton Kershaw. You're playing on a slate with Sale, Strasburg. They'll be low owned. People will force in the Coors action. This stack will be low owned, and they have just as much upside as anyone. So if you're going to go ahead and take the shot on McCullers, this is another stack to add to the list. If I'm building a lot of tournament teams, I'm gonna look to McCullers. I'm gonna look to some of these secondary offenses, and Boston Red Sox are certainly right up there among the best.
trying to pull it up, and I'm not able to pull it up. But if I remember correctly, and I feel like I have a good memory, especially when it comes to the Red Sox, David Ortiz's numbers at Minnesota is just ridiculous. So I'm trying to pull it up, but
Yeah,
I think his career numbers are something like just insane. He's going to have a massive series here. Play David Ortiz through the weekend.
absolutely.
Great matchup here against Tyler Duffy. You have to look at Mookie Betts, Jackie Bradley Jr., Shaw. All these guys are definitely in play here.
Yep, I agree.
San Diego at Colorado. Jonathan Gray, Andrew Kashner. So the one good thing here is maybe Jonathan Gray can shut down the Padres enough where we don't see 30 runs in this game. But Andrew Kashner is not going to be able to shut down the Rockies. He really struggles with lefties. He struggles with home runs to lefties. Going to see a guy in Carlos Gonzalez who's just knocking the cover off the baseball right now.
Yeah, Coors Field, he will most likely get absolutely rocked. And Carlos Gonzalez, Blackman, Para, Arenado. I mean, it's Coors Field. I mean, whoever you want. So the total in this game opened up at 12. They're done playing around with these totals. They're just opening them up at 12 now. So it's at 12. The Rockies pretty sizable favorites at minus 165. So Vegas is at this point essentially pegging the Rockies for about 6.5, 7 runs, which is that's a big number. So they're going to be expensive. There's no doubt about it, but it's Coors Field, and we know what to do.
It's pretty easy to fit in a Rockies stack on FanDuel. I'm just gonna say that.
Then maybe definitely will be the most popular stack. There's no doubt about that.
It's going to be super chalky here for good reasons, though. Definitely just a spot that you can look at the Rockies bats. How much exposure do you want to the Padres here? I feel like outside of Kemp, Myers, maybe Solarte, I just don't want these guys.
So, yeah, my take on this is, we talked pre-show, we both agreed John Gray is a solid pitcher. And, if he didn't have to pitch in Coors Field basically every other start, half the starts, however you want to put it, he'd have some really, really impressive numbers. Obviously, pitching in Coors, his numbers are going to take a pretty big hit. So, still wouldn't mind getting some exposure to the Padres, but it's a situation where I'm not going to overpay. I mean, if you're playing on a site that adjusts for Coors Field, I'm just not willing to overpay on a guy in Coors because this matchup with John Gray is not very good. I mean, he's a solid pitcher, so not going to overpay for the Padres bats is kind of my stance on it.
Yeah, so the second fantasy draft guy under 8K, I hate taking guys in this game, but cash games, it's hard not to take Solarte at 7,200 on draft today.
That's silly.
He's been hitting in the 4 spot, since he's come back, and he's hitting the ball well. 7,200 at Coors Field. I do like Jonathan Gray as a pitcher. I just don't like him at Coors Field.
Yeah, tough spot, bad spot, but that price tag is tough to pass up.
Miami at Arizona, Patrick Corbin, Justin Nicolino. Patrick Corbin against Miami at Arizona. What kind of ownership are we going to see for Stanton and Ozuna at 34 and 3,100?
Stanton will be probably...
I think he's the highest owned hitter in cash games.
Yeah, he's going to be the highest owned hitter in cash games. Big park shift in his favor here, Chase Field. He'll definitely be super high. Ozuna, a guy people typically don't play, so I think we'll see a big discrepancy between those two, but definitely in play. The Marlins have played around with their lineup a little bit, so guys like Prado, if he's batting second, in play. But the big thing here is Goldschmidt gets a lefty at home, and it's one of the golden rules of DFS, so you'll definitely want some exposure there.
Yeah, and a lefty in Nicolino who doesn't strike people out.
Yeah,
we can definitely, if you want to pivot off of like the Cubs and Yankee Stadium and Coors, I feel like this is a good game to pivot.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this game a lot. Beef Castillo, good play. Segura, good play. Priced pretty fairly around the industry. So I like this game a lot.
Last and final fantasy draft play. I talk about this guy, I feel like, more than anybody in the industry, and it's just because I think he's a consistent hitter. Hits lefties really well. He bats in the 2 spot for the Marlins. It's Martin Prado. He's a cash game play on the slate for me, and I would not be shocked if he has another multi-hit game here tonight.
Yeah, been solid this year and gets a good lineup spot. I like that call quite a bit. That's a really good price tag there for him.
Ozuna and Goldschmidt. Oh, man, I love this stack. I like this game a lot here.
Yep.
Cleveland at Los Angeles taking on the Angels. Corey Kluber, Hector Santiago. Santiago, man, he's been a guy that I just want to see him succeed, and it just hasn't been there. And Corey Kluber, got to watch him pitch in college here in my hometown. It's just we haven't seen that double-digit strikeout game once in the last 10 games.
Hasn't been the same guy this season, to be honest. He had a couple solid games, but just a lot of ho-hum performances on this slate. Said it quite a few times. We have 3 guys at the top that are just darn solid. A couple other guys pretty cheap that we talked about that we like, Hamill and McCullers. I don't know, just a guy I don't have much interest in any sort of format. I just don't know if he has the upside in the GPPs. Definitely not cash game playable for me at this point. I'd rather, if I'm going to go cheap, I'm going to go a lot cheaper with the other guys that we talked about, Hamill, McCullers, off him in all formats.
I feel like Kluber's a guy that's going to pick it up soon. Like his numbers suggest that, the swinging strike rate is still there. The hard contact rate is still there. Not giving up home runs, just the K per 9 is down. And I feel like there's going to be a time that's going to, increase. And the Sierra and XFIP, both better than his ERA. Just the thing here is like the Angels are like the Royals from last year. The Angels just don't strike out against right-handed pitching.
I mean, their lineup just looks so awful. You look at their overall lineup, it just looks so weak, and you want to pick on them. You want to take pitchers against them, but they just don't strike out a ton. So I'm with you. I think Kluber will pick it up. He had a slow start last season as well, and then just turned into this dominant guy, and I think we start to see that at some point, but not the right matchup here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now, looking at Hector Santiago, I'm sure you don't have any interest in him. Any bats that you want to target here against him?
Just honestly, probably like more one-off guys. Mike Napoli, Rajai Davis, if he bats leadoff. Not looking to necessarily stack against him, so more just one-off options. Like if Rajai Davis bats leadoff and he's cheap, I think he's cash game playable. Napoli for more GPP one-off type play. Yeah,
I definitely agree. You can get Rajai Davis pretty much anywhere across the industry cheap, and there's a good chance he bats leadoff here in this game. Just continues to hit leadoff against lefty, so I don't mind him. Napoli is a one-off tournament play. He has some upside. So I'm going to throw a name at you, and I don't know if you've been following him at all, but this guy Pettit for the Angels, the shortstop. He has multi-hits in 4 straight games, and I honestly, I got lucky with his home run on last night's slate, but this guy is a multi-hit machine right now.
Yeah, gets a terrible lineup spot, has 0 name ID, will be super low owned. If you're looking to punt a position and gather some upside, I think his position eligibility differs from site to site. So it depends what site you're playing on, but it gives you the ability to go cheap at a position, and this guy offers some decent upside, like you said.
I've been playing him more on DraftKings. I don't know what his price is for this slate, but he's been super cheap over there. I just, like you said, I've been punting with him.
Yeah.
Texas at Seattle, Iacuma against Derek Holland. Man, just a spot where I feel like I'm off the pitchers. Nothing really stands out to me on either one of these pitchers. Might want some of these bats, but what's your thoughts on these 2 pitchers?
No thanks. Not on this slate. It's the same situation as I just discussed. I like the guys, the expensive guys, and I like the guys way below these guys. So I don't think the upside's there. Iwakuma just doesn't strike out a ton of bats. It's a decent favorite here at -150. Yeah, -150. But can't play him. Favorite play from this game by far is going to be Nelson Cruz. Should be lower owned than usual. 15 game slate here. We have a lot of elite hitting environment, so I think ownership level will be low. He's a really good hitter against left-handed pitching. So my favorite play from this game by far.
Well, he's stealing my boy, man. I'm so excited that we're going to get done recording the podcast where I'm going to get to go watch Cruz hit 2 home runs off of Tomlin.
Yeah. No one played him either.
I know. I saw his ownership, and that means he's going to dud for me. But yeah, going back to the well here on this slate, what's your thoughts here on, I guess, whichever second baseman on FanDuel, whoever starts and bats leadoff, Profar or Adore, who's ever in the leadoff spot, I'm interested in either one of them.
Yeah, if they're cheap, and it's going to be if you're paying up for one of the top pitchers, it opens up a lot, and these guys offer the upside too. It's they're priced fairly, but they have the home run upside, they have the stolen base upside, they have just a lot of upside in general, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and they're priced fairly, so I like that call.
Yeah, if you're playing on FanDuel and you got to play one of these guys, Profar would be the cash game play, and Adore would be the tournament play, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on the lineup spot. The strategy I like with these guys, because typically one's been batting leadoff, one's been batting fifth. I like the leadoff guy for cash. I like the guy batting fifth for tournaments.
Yeah, they put him back in the leadoff spot here on Thursday night slate, and he had another multi-hit game. So there's no way they're going to not bat him leadoff.
Yeah, I agree.
I say that, and he's going to bat leadoff. But Dodgers at the Giants, Clayton Kershaw, Johnny Cueto. Kershaw, man, he's Kershaw, right? And, we know that Buster Posey's dealing with, he's banged up. We know Pagan's on the DL. We know, Pence is on the DL. If Posey's out of this lineup, it's tough to say, are you really afraid?
No, not at all. It's Clayton Kershaw. He's pitching in top 3 pitcher ballparks in all of baseball. The top option. I mean, honestly, I like Strasburg. I think, this slate is unique in the fact that you can make the argument for another guy. And you can make that argument for Strasburg tonight at home against the Phillies team, a massive favorite at -250. Kershaw's on the road going up against another good pitcher in Johnny Cueto, a much smaller favorite. So this is a unique slate where you can make that argument. When it's all said and done, I think Kershaw still has more fantasy points than Strasburg, but you can make the argument on this slate.
Have you noticed what FanDuel did here with the Giants bats? They're daring you to take bats against Kershaw. Every single one of the starters are 2K here.
Yeah, last Saturday, I believe they bumped him down to 1.5K. He's pitching against the Braves. They went below the 2K barrier. So, yeah, they're daring you. And, if you play any of these guys, just go ahead and assume you're going to get the big old goose egg next to their name, because there's not much upside going against Clayton Kershaw whatsoever. On a 15-game slate, you can find a much better punt. So they're tempting you, but don't take the bait.
Man, if Posey plays, he's in that 4 spot, 2K for catcher.
No, he's 2K. He's 2K as well.
Every single one of them are 2K.
Oh, geez.
I'm not going to do it, but if you ever wanted to be contrarian with a punt, you could just every single one of them is 2K. It's just interesting. Oh, man. Johnny Cueto, I'm not really interested in him here, but I'm not interested in the Dodgers bats either. And that's why I think that we made the argument for Strasburg over Kershaw in cash games, safer for a win. I just don't know. The Dodgers are cold, and Cueto's been pitching well this season.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, if you could come up with some sort of combination on a multiple pitcher site where you're able to play Cueto and one of these other top guys, if he's priced a little bit lower, maybe. But the likelihood for the win is super low, obviously, going against Clayton Kershaw. So, yeah, I'm not on him, not necessarily on any, definitely not on any Dodgers bats either.
Moving out. Let's play some home run derby. I think you actually got one on me on Monday, so I
What's new?
Gotta catch back up to you here. I'll let you lead it off, though.
Going one of the last games we talked about here, Nelson Cruz against the lefty.
Of course you would go Cruz. I like that call. I'm not even gonna hate on it because I like that call. Leaving out Coors Field here, man. I want Chris Bryant.
Like it. Gonna go pick on our boy Sonny Gray. I'm gonna go Joey Votto.
I'm gonna stay in that game, and I'm gonna go Adam Duvall.
All right, I like that. I'm gonna go a little off the wall here as well with a guy I talked about earlier as a good one-off tournament play, and that is Justin Upton.
Jay Up. I'm going super chalk here. I don't even care because I just want so much exposure to this guy. Big Poppy going yard in Minnesota here.
Yeah, that was super obvious.
All right. So if you had to pick a pitcher at the end of the day to pick up a win, not named, and this list is actually going to get a little long here. Not named Kershaw, Strasburg, Sale, Cueto, who would it be?
Hamill on the road against the Braves. And he's a massive favorite, so it is super chalky. But he's not one of the top guys, so I'm going that route.
Yeah, I could stick by what I've been saying all night and say Lance McCullers. Obviously, you guys know I like him. I'm going to go Steven Wright at Minnesota here. I just expect him to get a ton of run support with Tyler Duffy pitching against the Red Sox.
Definitely a run support thing there, no doubt about it.
Yeah, if he gives you like 7 innings, picks up some strikeouts. Not saying he's a great tournament play or just a play in general, but he's going to win here.
Yep, I like it.
If you guys haven't checked out our sponsor, FantasyDraft.com, make sure you guys check them out. They have their $15,000 home run here tonight. If you're planning on playing on it and you want a chance to win a fantasy draft, have your username on Fantasy Draft in the comments here on the podcast. And the highest scoring person that, finishes the highest here in this $15,000 home run will win a Fantasy Draft hat. So make sure you guys check them out. Use promo code Grinders. You get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. And you get Roto Grinders incentives for Fantasy Draft here for free for a year. Man, that's going to wrap it up here for the week, Coop. I like that we're here. We're done. It's Friday, and I'll talk to you again on Monday.
Yeah, have a good weekend, my friend. Anything fun going on there for you?
It's my last weekend of work, and I'm off for the next 3 weeks.
Time to party.
Oh, time to play DFS at a high volume again.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. Well, you have a good weekend as well. Guys, if I don't win anything and Hoop doesn't win anything, we hope you guys win something here tonight. Good luck in your contest, and we'll see you on Monday.